Hello and welcome to the BAK Collective. My name's Jonathan and this is the very special Flashback movie review episode. And in this review we're talking about the classic 50s sci-fi fantasy, The Incredible Shrinking Man. Now this film was directed by Jack Arnold, who was one of the top sci-fi directors of the 50s. And he directed films like Creature from the Black Lagoon, and It Came from Outer Space, which is one of my favourite science fiction movies from the 50s. This one, in The Incredible Shrinking Man, which was done in 1957. Businessman Scott Carey, played by Grant Willard, and his wife Louise are vacationing on the coast of Mexico on their boat, where while the wife is below deck, Scott notices a mist cloud coming over the boat. He is hit by the cloud and thinks nothing of it. Weeks go by, he gets even smaller at an accelerated rate, and his relationship with his wife starts to suffer as he feels more inadequate as a man. He gets even more smaller and starts to live in a dollhouse. As his life gets worse and worse, he realizes his house could get quite dangerous and perilous. The Incredible Shrinking Man is one of the best science fiction films of the 50s. Now, apart from some great science fiction movies that were made, like The Day the Earth Stood Still and Forbidden Planet, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, there wasn't a lot of depth in science fiction at that time. And if you look at The Incredible Shrinking Man, it's one of the most revolutionary science fiction films of that time. There's so much great depth to this film, and the main character, Scott, is a man who feels so inadequate and he has no idea who he is anymore, and as he slowly shrinks, he sort of feels that inadequacies, especially in his relationship with his wife. And there's a lot of spiritual themes to this film about man's existence and where he belongs in the universe. Now, alongside great writers like Ray Bradbury, Richard Matheson was one of the greatest writers of the 20th century, especially in science fiction and fantasy. He wrote the book I Am Legend, which had 3 movie incarnations from The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price, The Omega Man in 1971 with Charlton Heston, and of course the Will Smith film I Am Legend. And he wrote for The Twilight Zone and a number of other things. He was one of the most profound writers of that time. Now, getting back to the director, Jack Arnold, he was actually probably the most popular science fiction director of that time, and he directed some classic films like Creature from the Black Lagoon, It Came from Outer Space, Tarantula, and a number of other things. He started to direct television, and I think that was his downfall. He didn't direct any big movies anymore, and he went on to direct shows like the BRADY Bunch, Gilligan's Island, Wonder Woman in the 70s, and he sort of was one of those directors who sort of faded off into obscurity a little bit. His time was in the 50s as being one of the great science fiction directors of his time. The Incredible Shrinking Man is one of the most amazing science fiction movies of its time, and the special effects are incredible in this film, and you can see the influence that this film had on future movies. I was highly impressed with this film, and I didn't expect anything spectacular, especially for a 50s sci-fi movie. So, The Incredible Shrinking Man, one of the best 50s sci-fi movies, and I highly recommend that you track this film down and watch it. It is a fantastic little film. Well, thank you for joining me on the BAK Collective for my Flashback movie review, and there will be a lot more of these to come. Well, until next time, bye for now.